And again, I said the first area of the business that we're going to approach is this idea of employer choice. This idea, how to become a magnet of top talent. So Nexstar went outside this industry and found the head of HR, the former head of HR of LinkedIn, the former head of HR of an HR company who works with and saw thousands of companies across America do the right thing and do the wrong thing. But how do you become an employer of choice in the broad marketplace? Please join me in welcoming to the stage Mr. Steve Cadigan, former Director of HR, or Vice President of HR from LinkedIn.
All right, good morning, everybody. So after watching that, table full of Vikings contest, should I just be speaking to the purple table? Yeah? Okay. All right. No, because I'm part of the blue team over here. I think I brought their score down, everyone, so I apologize. All right, so being introduced here, it's my pleasure to join you. I'm based in Silicon Valley, California, just south of San Francisco. And a lot of times when you're invited to go to a different part of the world, different part of the States, and you're from Silicon Valley, people immediately assume that you've got all these insights into how to leverage technology in your day-to-day life. But before I get started with my presentation, I want to dispel that myth for you. Back in 2009, I was working for a video game company, Electronic Arts, and I was the head of human resources for their games business. And that's a great place to work if you're home and you're playing video games and your wife's like, "What are you doing?" "Market research, honey. It's part of my job here." Well, I got an opportunity, and I was approached by a company called LinkedIn to join their team. Now, I'd never heard of the company. How many of you actually have LinkedIn profiles in the room here? Okay, so you know a little bit about LinkedIn. I was approached by a recruiter. "Would you like to join the company?" I said, "No, I'm having a lot of fun here at this video game company, Electronic Arts. I had a very short commute. My wife worked there. They had on-site childcare, so we would take the minivan and the whole family would go to work and go home every day. And it was a very comfortable, enjoyable life." But the recruiter got in my head and said, "You got to come in and meet the leadership team here because this opportunity could be really amazing for you. We're building a product that's going to fundamentally change the world of recruiting." And I said, "Okay, I'll go check it out." What I didn't know is they'd been looking for someone to lead their human resource function for about 6 months. It was going to be the first human resources person they've ever hired. And for those of you that are not familiar with human resources, it's essentially the function when you get to scale of around 100 to 200 people, where the function helps with everything around people, helping attract, helping recruit, helping onboard, helping set up performance management systems, organization structures, helping you with developing your culture, your organization charts, all the benefits, compensation, rewards, and those things. That's been my career for about 30 years. So I went in and I did this whole day and a half of speed dating interviewing. I met 12 executives. And I was so excited after I met these people. I said, "You know what? I want this job. And I want to show these people that I am so hip with LinkedIn. Like, I've been using it for a few years. I think I understood what they were trying to do. And so I said, I'm going to send them a really cool invitation to join my network with a big thank you note embedded in it." And within about an hour and a half, every one of the leadership team that I met had accepted my invitation to join their network. I'm like, I so have this job. They've accepted my invitation within like an hour or two. So went to sleep, super excited, pumped up. Maybe this was going to lead to a job offer. And something happened the next morning as I woke up that I wasn't expecting. Back a few years ago, in the early days of LinkedIn, when someone joined your network, or you connected with someone, your whole network got a broadcast notice that Steve is now connected to the CEO, the Vice President of Engineering, the Head of Operations, the Board of Directors of all of LinkedIn. So my whole network got a notice. So what I wasn't expecting was what happened next. Walked into the building literally the next day in Electronic Arts, and my phone goes off. Guess who it is? It's my boss at Electronic Arts. "Hey, Steve, were you really sick yesterday? Because we just noticed that you connected yesterday with every single executive at LinkedIn. I know you're interviewing there." And I just thought to myself, I am so screwed if I don't get this job right now. But that was a moment when I realized I was ill-equipped to deal with this transition that was happening in the world of recruiting, that I didn't understand this tool of LinkedIn, and I didn't understand how it worked. And I'm not sure where you are in terms of your recognition of how fundamentally the world is changing, especially the world of recruiting, that we live in a great transparent world right now where people see opportunity. They can also rate what it's like to work for you. They can talk about what you're like as a boss, as a company, as a place of employment, and they can share that with everybody on Glassdoor, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on so many dimensions right now. We are all exposed as leaders. It's very uncomfortable. So I accepted that job, and I want to tell you today my story of trying to build a company in the shadow of giants. Before I do, just a quick raise of hands. How many of you in this room today is recruiting one of the top priorities for your firm? Just a show of hands. Okay. To back that up, how many of you during the course of this conference have actually blocked time or expect to block time to interview somebody for your organization? A few people. How many of you are coming here to recruit someone in this room? No, just don't answer that question. Don't answer that question. All right. So let's dive in here. When you think about creating value and creating something of substance in your organization, what's the main driver of value creation? Number one, in every organization. What is it? Purple team, come on, help me out here. People, right? What is creating value, especially in a business to consumer industry? It's people. It's not your special intellectual property. It's not a patent that you have. Your value is created by the people in your organization. So let me ask you this. If people are the number one driver of value in your business today, is that the number one investment of time on your calendar when you look at your day? If recruiting is the number one priority for you, how much time are you personally spending on that? I want you to think about that as we go through the presentation here today, because I was forced in LinkedIn to be in a position where we had to make it the most important operating priority for our company in order to grow. As I mentioned to you, I joined LinkedIn in 2009, headquartered in Mountain View, California. For me, it was a dream opportunity. I'm an HR leader, practicing HR in a company that's making an HR product. The number one product when I joined, we only had about 400 people, was a recruiting solutions. You pay us a licensing fee and we give you access to millions of professionals around the world for you to try to source and recruit. And all those professionals had given us all the information about their experiences, their education. They had references from people in there. It was basically a resume or a CV on steroids. And it was unlike anything the industry had ever seen before. It was an incredible experience, and I want to sort of run through for you here briefly the results of that experience. So the company, in the time that I was there, from 2009 through 2012, we grew from 400 to 4,000 people. We went from 3 offices to 26, and from having employees in 2 countries to 17 countries. We're considered by many the best tech IPO of the past decade, still to this day, in terms of revenue ramp and also in terms of shareholder value creation. We doubled the revenue every year while doubling the employee base. Think about that for a second. How is it possible when the average length of time my employees were at the company was 9 months? How is it possible that we grew the revenue every year when most of the time my managers were spending was not on their daily duties of running their business, it was recruiting people? How do you do that? I'm going to share with you why I think we were able to achieve that. But not only did we achieve that, we completely transformed an industry, and that was why it was an incredible blessing for me to be at LinkedIn, because rarely do you have a chance to completely shape the landscape of an industry, in this case, the recruiting industry. Nothing had fundamentally changed in the world of recruiting until the internet was developed and people could post jobs online and people could search for jobs online. Until LinkedIn came along, this was the biggest shift the industry had really seen. In the time that I joined, the stock grew from 350 to a high of 252, And last year, Microsoft bought the company for $26.2 billion. In 13 years, $26 billion of value was created. And we built a world-class company in a crazy way. So what I want to do is tell you how we did that, because that's pretty amazing. And there's a fair amount of luck and a heck of a lot of mistakes we made along the way. And whilst I realize that my universe is very different than yours, I guarantee you there are nuggets here for all of you to take and apply in your day-to-day, okay? Because before I get started, I will tell you, nobody on this leadership team that I was working with, nobody at LinkedIn had ever done something like we'd done at LinkedIn before. None of us. So here's the irony of our success story that I want to share with you. On paper, we shouldn't have realized the success that we did. If you're an investor, if you're someone who's betting on the success of an organization, you would not have bet on us achieving the success we did if you had the intelligence of what I'm about to share with you. So let's get started. Every single member, from the CFO, myself, the CEO, to the head of sales, head of legal, head of engineering, head of operations, nobody had ever been in a private company before. We'd all been in big, huge public companies. We used to joke that we're all big company refugees. We learned we never wanted to do that again. We wanted to build something special, but we'd never been in a private company. We'd never taken a company public before. We'd never ramped, and all of us were managing, as we grew, bigger teams than we ever had in our entire lives. It's pretty intimidating, but pretty exciting to be facing something that you've never had a chance to do before in your life. We had a CEO who'd never been a CEO before. We had no Jack Tester in our back pocket. We had Jeff Weiner, who had gone from school to Warner Brothers, had a job at Yahoo, and then became our CEO. He was the third CEO of the company. And the company, when I joined, was only 6 years old, 400 people. We had a very complicated business model. Many of the internet companies you're familiar with, Facebook, Google, for example, have one main core business, and that is ads. We had a subscription business, we had a recruiting business, we had a marketing business. It was very complicated. And we also had something which turned out to be a great forcing function for us to innovate. We had fear. We had Google sitting next door, and we were worried with the millions of members that Google had that they were going to create a competitive product. They did ultimately. It was called Google Circles. We're also worried that Facebook was going to wake up one day and realize they could be Workbook. And they would realize that when we filed to go public, you file a document with the SEC called an S-1. And an S-1 basically is the recipe for how you make money. And when they do that, it's a public filing. Every company can see how you make money. And what we knew that Facebook would see when they saw our S-1 was that we made 10 times per member that they did. And we were worried we were going to wake up the giant down the street. We're also worried that Salesforce, who is the software that many of our organizations, of larger organizations use to manage their sales organizations, was going to move upstream and build a competitive product. Here's another thing I'll tell you, for those of you that are not as familiar with how search works. The number one highway of people coming to the LinkedIn website was through a Google search. We knew that because you can track all that stuff on the internet. The number one entry to our site was from Google. What if Google said, I want a part of that business, and they changed the algorithm a little bit so that if anyone was looking up information on somebody, it would go to the Google information first before the LinkedIn information first, right? We were terrified. We needed to build our moat and build this company quickly, or we were going to be taken out. And all that was going on while we're doing that. Just imagine the craziness. Every day we're adding dozens of more people, new processes, new procedures, new countries. It was cray-cray, crazy. But here's the biggest challenge of all for us, recruiting. So imagine the irony. We're a company that makes a great recruiting product. What's our biggest problem? Recruiting people. And so I want to share with you some of the stress I went through as we're trying to grow this company, Because we are going after people not just to work for us, we're going after the best people in the world against sexier brands. The Google, the Twitter, the Netflix, the Amazons, that could outbid me, that could pay way more than I could pay, that candidates knew a lot more than they could relate to. Millennials, they don't want to go work for some boring professional networking company. When Google's knocking on the door, hey, we got a sushi chef over here, and oh, next week Lady Gaga's coming to lunch, and the week after that, LeBron James is going to teach you how to shoot free throws. Does that interest you? And we're like, well, my Uncle Joey's coming for lunch tomorrow at LinkedIn. Very, very challenging. Google made more money in a day than we made in a year. And I had to compete against those people. And we succeeded. But here's another environmental reality for those of you not familiar with recruiting this, what I call an endangered species, a software engineer. Software engineers in the Valley usually have 5 or 6 job offers. So I almost need to hire an actuary to help them chart all the differences between their offers from one company to the next. Well, this has stock options, and this has restricted share units, and this has all kinds of different bonus schemes. Every software engineer that I hired, the 4 years I was at LinkedIn, had at least 2 or 3 other offers. They are the superstar athletes of my industry. And for me to win, I was going to need to get those people to agree to join me. Couldn't pay as much as Google, couldn't pay as much as Amazon, didn't have a sushi chef, didn't have Lady Gaga's, on my cell phone, on speed dial. So how were we able to do that? We ultimately did. We ultimately wound up winning more against those guys than we lost. But that's my reality. And so I want to give you a picture of, to me, what a software engineer looks like. It's like I could never really get my hands on it. I could never really capture this. That's what it really felt like. Does it really exist? Who are these people? Really elusive, endangered species, incredibly hard, but that's what we needed to do. And then I want to give you another interesting irony of trying to grow this company in the shadow of all these sexy giants. This is my neighborhood right here. It's a shot from Google Earth, and that star right there is where my headquarters is, in shiny, sunny Mountain View, California. So here's my next door neighbor to the north. Here's my next door neighbor to the east, to the northwest, and to the west. We literally had to cover in new hire orientation how to avoid getting hit by the Google buses when you walk around our complex. And to the right of my headquarters was where Google had just bought a bunch of land from NASA to build their monster headquarters. So we were going to be surrounded. And guess what you worry about when you're in my shoes? That someone's going to go to the sushi chef and have lunch next door and realize, hey, maybe this is a cooler place for me to go work. That was my neighborhood. Up the freeway was a company, Twitter. South was Apple. And they're all hiring. Today, as I stand on the stage right now, Amazon has 5,000 open jobs in the Bay Area. Google has 5,000, and Facebook has 7,000 open jobs. The battle continues. It's brutal. Counteroffers galore. So I'm sitting at my desk, I think it was like 2011, and all of a sudden one of my engineers forwards me a cut and paste of an article that he just saw on the internet. Hey, Steve, check this out. Google offers a staff engineer, not a vice president, not an executive vice president, not the next CEO, a staff engineer, $3.5 million to turn down a Facebook offer. And so what shocked me was not that intel, because I knew that was happening, that we were getting in an arms race for compensation. But what really shocked me was how many people viewed that within hours of the story getting posted. I'm like, oh boy. I knew what was going to happen. My staff engineers are going, hey, Steve, how's your checkbook looking? I'd like to, I'll settle for $1 million, maybe not 3.5, but for me to stay. It actually didn't happen, thankfully, but this was the reality. Google and Facebook got into an arms race for talent, and it started to get even more cray-cray. So we tried everything. Everything. And when you're faced with a recruiting inefficiency or recruiting failure, and you're worried about someone else stealing your business, you're really forced to try lots of things. So we tried job fairs, we tried tech talks. And if you're trying to get technologists to come in, what does a technologist love? They love working with brilliant technologists. So I remember sitting around the executive staff room one day and saying, okay, we need a tech luminary here if we're going to attract technical talent. Are any of you tech luminaries? And all my technical people start looking at their shoes like, okay, none of you are tech luminaries. Do you know a tech luminary? And someone says, well, yeah. I was like, okay, who's that? Well, Jack Gosling. I go, oh, the Canadian actor? No, that's Ryan Gosling. Okay, well, who's Jack Gosling? Oh, he's the founder of Java. How do you know him? He has beers every week at the corner pub down the street from our headquarters. We said, great, well, let's invite him here to have beers with our engineers every Friday, with his buddies. So we started to do that. And as we started to get Mr. Gosling over, he started to bring other people over, and then engineers from Google wanted to hear from him, and we started to figure out, if we have these tech talks, it'll help. We started a referral bonus program. That wasn't working. We started an external referral bonus program. You don't even have to work for us. If you refer someone here, we'll give you a bonus if they accept. We started marketing campaigns, recruiting blitzes. We had pizza sourcing nights where we would say the entire evening from 6 to 10, all you're doing, teams in the company, all you're going to do is source your network and find people that could work here. That's all we're doing. Huge focus. And we started to try to do signing bonuses to attract people to whatever disposable resource we had, anything at our disposal, we wanted to put to use. And we got so maniacal. It was like, no matter what you're working on, if we have a recruiting issue, you stop what you're doing and you help try to close somebody. Because we know if we didn't do this, we're dead. We were going to die, and we weren't going to live. So this great sense of urgency spawned some creativity. Well, in 2010, after trying all these things and not having any success, we hit a point of significant stress. And I want you to imagine, I'm standing in front of the company every week showing, here's our funnel, here's how many people we are interviewing, here's how many people we made offers to, here's how many people rejected those offers, here are the accepts, and here's what we're planning to do about it. Every week, my report card to the entire company. I had no gray hair when I started that job. I kid you not. So the biggest impediment to our growth, hiring top tech talent. And our main business product, ironically, as I told you, is a recruiting product. We were in a massively hot market for talent. That massively hot market continues today. It's white hot today. And with the counteroffer craziness, we started to still see a rise in offer declines. So we had to sit down and really rethink this problem. Like, whatever we're trying to do, we're a bunch of smart people. Yes, we've never been in this industry before. We've never recruited at scale, but we got to figure this out. And so we started to face some really hard questions. And these are questions I really encourage you to ask, because I'd never faced this kind of challenge in my career where we just couldn't hire people. But it's a very simple one. Why does someone want to work for you? We sat around. There's 9 of us on the exec team, CEO, CFO, myself, the rest of the team. Why would someone want to work here? We have to accept we're not going to be able to hire anyone. Someone wants to make more money, they can go to Google. That's okay, we're going to have to live with that. Why would someone want to work here? What unique assets do we have that those people don't have? So we started to really think about this. We started to say, when we said, why would someone want to work here? It led to the next question, which was, well, what kind of company really are we? Because to answer why someone wants to work there, you kind of got to know who you are. And I know that sounds like really cliche and it sounds overly simplistic, but this was a turning point for us. Because I think a lot of us assume the same things that every other company is telling the people you're trying to fight for to hire. They're telling the same things. Oh, we got great people here. Talent's number one. We really care about people here. We got great benefits. We got competitive pay. You're going to work on good stuff. I'm telling you, everyone's got that same story. So what do you have above and beyond that? So we discovered something really important. We're solving a problem that's worth solving, and no one's ever solved this before. We're going to help people find their dream jobs because we now have 50 million people's professional profiles, and we can tell you something like, no, you don't need to go to business school to become a CEO. We know that because we have the data and the evidence. And now we can start answering lots of other questions. Do I really need a degree in XYZ to be able to go do this kind of profession? We know the answers. No one had ever taken a look at career arcs and what's possible in the way that we were going to be able to do that. That was something really aspirational. Help people find their dream jobs. That's what we're solving. Oh, you want to go to Facebook and help kids develop their short attention span capabilities? Okay, fine. Yeah, you should go to Facebook. Oh, you want to go to Google and be engineer number 7,000 and buff the trophies of the people that have been working there for the 10 years before you? Or do you want to be engineer number 70 here and put your fingerprints on building something that's changing people's lives? Oh, do you want to go to that hot video game company and help kids not do their homework and be distracted and develop their short attention capabilities? No. Or do you want to come here and help people find their dream jobs? We started to get a story. What are we solving? What are we about? And what do we offer here that other companies don't offer? I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this notion of career transformation, but that's really the big deal for us. And what assets do we really have to attract people? What's different? Ask yourself that. I've given you in the notebooks on your table here about 5 or 6 articles that really dive into a lot of this when you have some more time, if you'd like to explore those. But this is a really healthy exercise I strongly encourage you to do with your team. In fact, you can do it with your whole organization. What's unique about us? And don't start with, oh, we really care about people here, because everyone's saying that story. How does that experience of you caring about them, what does that look like, and how is it different from all the other choices they have in terms of places they can go? For me, I learned there was 4 or 5 things that my talent really cared about. I want to work at a place that cares. I want to work on something that matters. I want to solve a really interesting problem, and I want to work with people I can learn from. 4 simple things. Very simple. So I wanted to make sure every time I talked to someone, I answered those 4 questions. What's important here? What are we solving? How can you learn and grow and make an impact? And who are the other people that are going to make you better? As Jack says, great leaders make other great leaders. I wanted all my leaders to be like that. And so we came up finally after failure after failure, after getting my teeth kicked in by all the hiring managers that we weren't, Steve, we're not paying people enough. Oh, Steve, our benefits suck. Oh, Steve, our work environment's not nearly as sexy as all these other companies. Oh, Steve, did you hear that Google just implemented a new benefit where if you have a child, they'll give you a nanny for a year? And I was like, what? And then they're going to build an in-law unit behind your house too for free? Like, that's literally what it felt like. And so we said, no. What asset do we have that's going to cost us nothing? Our culture. That's our asset. The experience of working here will fundamentally be greater than any experience you could have anywhere else. And as a leadership team, we sat down, we said, we're going to make sure that anyone who joins us is going to feel this is the best job they ever had. Didn't cost us anything. Didn't cost us anything. I'm going to share with you some of the things that we did. But I want you to ask that to yourselves and to your organization. The experience of being with you does what? What's it going to deliver? We had to accept that some people are going to stay with us for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. One person actually worked for us for a day. And this is when I got really worried. I was sitting in Walmart's headquarters coaching their executive team on LinkedIn and how they could leverage it because they had a huge problem trying to recruit people in Bentonville, Arkansas. A lovely town. Anyone here from Bentonville? Hoorah? No? Okay. They love it so much they decided not to join us. So I'm in Bentonville, I get a call, hey Steve, got a problem. What's that? Oh, one of our key engineers that we just hired just quit after the first day. And I'm thinking, oh my God, did we run over the guy in the parking lot before orientation? Did someone really piss this guy? What happened? I said, I want to see that person in my office first thing tomorrow. I said, I'll pay him for day 2, but make sure he's in my office tomorrow, please. Fly back in, Sanjay comes in my office. Sanjay, what's going on? I understand that you resigned after 1 day. How badly did we screw this up? He's like, well, Steve, I just got to tell you, when I was interviewing for you, I was also interviewing at Netflix and over at Facebook, and I really liked the project that Facebook had. It was really cool. And the project, that I was going to work on at LinkedIn is interesting, but that one was really cool. Well, Facebook called a few weeks ago and said they're not doing that project. They're going to put it on ice. So I decided to accept your offer. Well, last night they called and said, we're greenlighting the project it's on, so I'm going to go over and work for them. And my inner voice, as someone who grew up on the East Coast, my Godfather mindset's like, you are so dead to me right now. And I wanted to call Facebook and go, do you know the integrity of that person that you just hired? You can have them. Because they just screwed us. I wined him, I dined him, I took his family out, I got to know him. We thought this was all right. No, Sanjay, why are you leaving? Oh, I just want to do that work over there. Really? I was like, man, you millennials. Wow. I said, is that a canary in the coal mine? Is that an exception? No. So I had to sell more. I had to get to know my people more. I was like, Sanjay, we're going to build something amazing with you here. Did we tell you about all the ways you're going to make an impact and learn and create? So we had to get comfortable that we were going to lose. But the people that we wanted were people that wanted to come and build something special. And we had to get very clear on our message. You come here, it's going to fundamentally transform your career. Now, here's where things really got cool for us. We realized that the same thing we wanted for our customers, we want our members, free members, to use our site to find their dream jobs, is exactly the same value proposition for our employees. Come here and we will help you find your dream job. And if it's not here, that's okay. While you're here, we will help give you the skills to get you wherever that is you want to go. See, this is the reality that I got to deal with in Silicon Valley. I'm not trying to hire you for the rest of your career. I'm trying to hire you for a year or 2 or 3. And I recognize that you're going to go. So I have to accept that. So I'm going to make a deal with you. I'm going to make you great while you're here. And hopefully that goodwill, that pay it forward is going to come back to me. And ultimately it did, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But here's something. I want to ask a question to everyone in the room here. I want you guys to look around and see what the answer is. How many of you, if you look at your talent over the course of the last year, your people are staying longer with you than they were with your organization 2 years ago? Who's seeing people stay longer in their organization? Okay. Raise your hands. How many people are seeing their people stay less than they did before? Okay, not stay as long. Okay? All right, interesting. Mixture. So here's one of the things that we did to come and really support this opportunity that we wanted people to have an incredible career transformative experience. I want to give you the story of Michael, Brooke, and Catherine. Michael was a member of our finance and accounting team and worked with me here because in human resources, our natural-born enemy are finance people, okay? So Michael liked his job. He's doing great work. But all Michael did during the day was talk about the weekend family doggy diner that he would go around and make these incredible relishes and sell his hot dogs and his relishes all around the San Francisco area. That's all he talked about. He loved it. So as we started hitting escape velocity, we were finally like, we're going to need to build a cafe here. Maybe not a sushi cafe, but we got to start, providing food to our people. And so we said, hey, Michael, would you like to help us build a whole food program in the company? We know you're in accounting, but we know you also have a passion for this. It's what makes your heart sing. Would you like to do that? He started to cry. And he's like, okay, what's my title? I said, I don't know, make it up. He goes, okay, I'm going to be the food guy. I go, wow, that's pretty insightful there, Michael. More evidence of the bright people in finance. Okay, great. So what's the first thing Michael does when he gets the food guy title? He updates his LinkedIn profile. And then something happened I wasn't expecting. Michael got his phone out and started tweeting and emailing and talking on all the social networks about how amazing it is that his employer tapped him on the shoulder and said, we want you to do something totally different. He was blown away by it. Then Brooke Lopez. You probably all have someone like Brooke in your organization. Brooke, if I could capture in a photo the cultural essence of LinkedIn, it's Brooke. She's the person when your chips are down, somehow a chocolate chip cookie appears on your desk. When your child has a birthday and you didn't even know she knew you had a child, she's got a little gift for your child. She's amazing. And she was setting up corporate training all over, and she was about to have a child, so she was not as able to travel around as she used to do. And we went to Brooke and said, Brooke, we're really needing to differentiate ourselves in the market, and our culture is really important around that. Can you help us figure out how we grow our employer brand and how we build this culture to be even more amazing? So we tapped her on the shoulder and said, do you want to be something cool? Yeah, okay. We'll come up with a title. She goes, how about culture cultivator? I go, okay. Sounds like some kind of lawn product, but that's fine. And she started to cry. I was like, don't do this to me, people. Don't cry in my office. So what does Brooke do? Gets out her phone, gets on the social channels, and tells everyone, oh my gosh, look what my company just did. My favorite story is Catherine Porter. Catherine's working in our business development organization, and Catherine was responsible for sort of new market introductions. She overheard another group on her team was plotting LinkedIn's arrival in Japan. And so she knocked on the door of the folks in the meeting because she could overhear the conversation like we're going to launch a new office in Japan. And she says, hey guys, what's going on? Hey, we're looking to put an office in Japan. She goes, wow, that's great. Can I help? And they said, well, listen, we're really busy right now. We'll let you know if we need your help. Thank you so much for offering. What a team player. And she says, no, seriously, I'm fluent in Japanese. And they said, really? She goes, yeah, it's in my LinkedIn profile. And they were like, oh, really? She says, yeah. So roll the tape forward. We appointed Catherine as the acting country manager. So I want you to pause on this one for a second. Male-dominated culture in Japan. We put a woman in charge. You don't think the ripples of that, the positive ripples, like, whoa, LinkedIn is serious about giving people an opportunity to do something amazing, even with the risk of putting someone in a culture that's going to be challenging for them to be successful in. We sent her over there. She grew up in Japan. She was fluent. She wanted her kids to have a chance to become fluent. Changed her life. She told everyone about it. The more we created these experiences, and these are just a few of the many I could give you, the more we realized, wait a second, our employees are not just employees. Our employees are our public relations department. And this is something, if you don't recognize it already, I'm here to tell you. Your employees have something in their pocket. It's called an amplification device. It's called I work for you, but I'm also your marketing department. Woohoo! And if you treat me right, I'm going to tell the world. Why wouldn't you take advantage of that today? Why wouldn't you want to serve great experiences worth sharing? And so that's what we did. We started building more and more and more of these great experiences worth sharing. And it all came down to us realizing our competitive advantage in this market for this war for talent is our culture. That we're going to stop hiring more recruiters. We're going to stop, ad campaigns and all this, and we're just going to serve up an amazing experience here so that the way we win the war for talent is we get out of the war for talent. We become a place that's a magnet for talent. And that's what we focused on. It didn't require a lot. It required a lot of thoughtfulness around how are we going to structure opportunities for our people that they're just are going to blow their minds. So let me share a few more of those things because the tide started to shift. We started to really think about careers differently rather than a linear path. Because maybe someone needs to try something over here. Or like in Michael's example, he's in finance. So accounting, next thing would be senior accountant. Then it would be sort of like senior financial analyst, and then so forth. No. He's going to go over here. He's now got his own food company. He left LinkedIn after a few years. He's got his own food business. That moment in time changed his life. Do you think if someone approaches him, and he's a former employee, and says, hey, I'm thinking about going to LinkedIn, what do you think? Should I go there? What do you think his answer is? Heck yeah. Changed my life. We created career bursts. And again, this is one of the assets I had. This cost me a little bit of money. So I don't know how it works at Nexstar when Dan gets up and has the company all-hands meeting, but when Jack does. But when my CEO got in front of the company one day and says, we want this to be the best job you ever had and do whatever you want. I'm sitting in the back room going, oh no, all hell's going to break loose. People can do whatever they want. Are you serious? And so the next day, about 7 of our new grads, we just hired out of the USC, University of Southern California, they come into my office, hey, Steve, did you hear what Jeff Weiner, our CEO, said? We can do whatever we want. So we want to go to Australia. I'm like, okay, sounds good. There's just one problem. There's this thing called immigration, and we have it in the US, and they have it in Australia, which says you got to have some work experience. And you guys finished orientation like last week, and you really don't have work experience yet, so we're not going to be able to get you a visa. How about this? How about if I send you over there for 2 weeks and you help them onboard a whole new group of new grads? And you learn about our business in Australia. And they're like, wow, you guys would do that? I said, yeah, but you're going to have to fly coach. You have to share a room, okay? And I want to know you guys are doing some real work. And they're like, wow. And these guys just went out of their skin, so excited. As the tide started to turn, other things started to happen. Lady Gaga never called, but Deepak Chopra did. Thomas Friedman did. Deepak Chopra, he wanted to really focus his business around wellness in the workplace. It's a big topic for him, those of you who are fans of his or have read any of his books. Deepak shows up at the office one day, and I get a phone call from reception. Hey, Steve, Deepak's here. I look at my watch. He's an hour early. What's he doing here? He goes, well, Deepak's here. You got to come meet him. I go, no, I'm interviewing somebody. Like, this is important. I go, yeah, but it's Deepak. So I go down and I greet Deepak, and he's like right in my nose. Steve, it's so good to meet you. And I'm like, don't look at my soul, dude. You're going to see something in there. He's right there. And I started to realize, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. Why are you here? I want to learn about what you're doing. I want to learn about this LinkedIn thing because I think you're touching a lot of professionals, and I think there's a chance for me to make a difference. Then Martin Luther King Jr.'s son and daughter came and said, we're trying to grow our network and we want to reach a greater, can you tell us about how we can do that with our organization? And we said, sure, but can you also talk to our employees and inspire them with what you're doing? We had authors. Susie Orman came. I've never seen someone rip as many of my employees about how horrible their investment strategy was and have the employees love it so much. She came in because she wanted to know what we're doing. We didn't pay these people anything. And they started to come more and more. And our employees are like, well, you're just inviting anybody? We're like, yeah, we want to be inspired. We want you to be inspired. We want you to think of life in a way that is going to inspire you to do great work. Because we want you to have not just a great career, we want you to have a great life. That started happening. Then, because we had no recruiting budget and we had no learning and development budget, we said, after we hit about, 1,000 people, we actually had employees who'd been there 2 or 3 years, and they said, I'd like to learn more than just my job. And so I went to my CEO and said, Jeff, we need a recruiting budget, man, and we need a bigger learning and development budget. He's like, well, we don't have one. And I said, okay, what are you doing tomorrow? He goes, what do you mean? I said, how about you teach a class on the leadership fundamentals, for example. You want to do that? He's like, yeah, I'd love to do that. Okay, I'm going to invite all the directors we have in the company. You're going to deliver a class on that. And we started deputizing our executives to teach classes about whatever inspired them so that our employees could see them in a really happy place. And we started innovation days. We didn't come up with this idea. We borrowed it from someone else who came up with it, but one Friday a month, we let our employees do whatever they wanted to do, so long as it was in the spirit of getting to know someone new, of networking, and helping our company or helping themselves find inspiration. And amazing things started happening, amazing things. We had groups of people say, we're going to go to the Veterans Center in town and help returning veterans develop the best LinkedIn profile they could possibly develop. And they would come back with amazing stories, blood drives, helping build homeless shelters, you name it. Our employees got excited by it. And there were also people that got together and said, we've got a way of making this company product work better, and they started working on that. But the other thing we did with recruiting was that we measured everything. Believe it or not, we came up with 350 steps in the recruiting process that we measured every day. When things got tough, I had a meeting with the CEO every morning for an hour with my recruiting leaders around the status of our recruiting. I'll give you an example. We threw out a referral bonus of $5,000. You refer us an engineer and we hire him $5,000. What started coming at us was garbage. I was like, I'm looking at this and I'm asking the person who referred this candidate, like, why'd you refer this person? Well, look, they say data scientist here. They go, no, there was a Cub Scouts that they were a part of and some data scientist spoke to the Cub Scout group. That's not a data scientist. Why are you doing that? And the $5,000, all of a sudden crazy things started happening. So we had to change our metric when we realized the number of qualified referrals when this $5,000 award was out there wasn't what we wanted it to be. So we changed it. We said, if you refer someone who's so qualified they get an interview, we'll give you $1,000. Whether they get hired or not, $1,000, quality person. Then that improved. And so the quality did improve, but it didn't improve as much as we wanted. So then we said, we're going to have a company meeting every week, and we're going to measure every department's quality index on how qualified the people are that they're referring. So all of you are going to see, if you're sending garbage over the wall, you're going to see the quality score. And then we got the competitive juices flowing, and people got excited by that. So I want you to think about, in your recruiting process, how engaged are you? How clear are you on your story? And how effectively are you really measuring it? Recruiting is the most important muscle, from my point of view, of any organization. If you really believe that talent is your product, that your people are your product, and that's how you're going to win, it should be the number one priority for you in how you think about your day, how you think about your time. Are you ripping your employee because they didn't deliver something on time? Or are you taking that opportunity to say, what can I do differently to get a different outcome to support you to become more effective? And it's a matter of mind shift, I think, for a lot of us. And we really moved to that place. Every company I ever worked for said people number one. Oh yeah, definitely people number one. But no company had ever worked for that said the number one thing you do is build a world-class team every day. It's not like an aspiration on a poster. It's our operating priorities. That was number one. Number two, build great products. Number three, service the heck out of our members and provide a delightful experience. And number four was grow internationally. Build a world-class team, number one, always. If you had an opening on your team at LinkedIn that was a critical opening, we asked you to spend at least a full day or two a week. That's all you did, was work on filling that. That's how important it was to us. And we had daily quality reviews, as I mentioned to you. But the biggest shift for us was that we promised people, you come work for me, I'm going to make this the best job you ever had. I promised you. And some of our interviews would start with this question. We both know you're going to leave LinkedIn in a few years. Where do you want to be when you leave us? People are like, what? We're going to talk about my termination before I've even started? Yeah. Let's just skip to the chase. We know you're going to leave. That's great. We want you to leave like on a rocket ship, headed towards something that you want to head towards. We flipped that conversation to try to like, how are we going to trap them in here and keep them in here? I talk to so many recruiting organizations around the world, and a lot of people say, Steve, how did you keep the people at LinkedIn? What's your retention strategy? And my answer to that is retention is defense. You want to play offense in the world of recruiting. You want to be a place where people want to be. You don't want to be worried about how do we keep them here. You've already lost it if that's how you're approaching it. It's not about keeping them from leaving. It's about thinking, how can I make it so rich they're not even going to think about leaving? And if they are thinking about leaving, they know I got their back. Here's a fact today. More people are leaving organizations faster than ever before. McKinsey studied it. Fortune magazine published a study on this recently. They believe that the average tenure is moving down in the next 10 years to about 1.8 years that people are going to be with an organization. So if you believe that to be true, maybe you don't believe people are going to be at companies an average of 2 years, but if you believe that people are leaving faster than they did before, that leads to a really interesting opportunity. That means you have more former employees than ever before. So you have a choice. Do you want those former people to be spokespersons who are going to encourage people like Michael and Catherine and Brooke to come back? Or when they leave you, are you taking the Godfather approach? Like, you're dead to me. We're going to X you out of the company photo, picnic photo. You never existed here. Your alumni is an opportunity. Your alumni is going to grow. You're going to have to lean into that and see that as an opportunity. That's what I believe. Okay, what's this picture right here? This picture here is how we measured our weekly success at LinkedIn. How many Google bikes were in our parking lot on Friday? Yeah. People are like, hey, yeah, they give these bikes out for free. But that's how we measured our success. I'll tell you another funny story. When the tide started to shift, I had that favorite day that we all have every year, our performance review discussion. So I was due to have mine with my CEO, Jeff, and he's like, okay, Steve, we got a performance review coming up tomorrow. I was like, okay, I'm ready. He goes, yeah, but you didn't use our software tool to self-assess and do the 360. I said, no, don't worry about it. I got my performance review. A few weeks earlier, because we've been so successful recruiting, Morgan Stanley, an investment banker, had upgraded our share target to strong buy from buy because we've been such an effective job of recruiting people. You don't think my recruiting team grew like 3 inches taller when this article came out? They saw their impact was immediately affecting the share price of the company. So I took that article, I printed it, I went into Jeff's office for my performance review, and he said, okay, so what are we going to talk about? I took the article, I kind of slid it across the table. I go, there's my performance review right there. Bam! He has this smile of like a Cheshire cat. He's like, nice job, nice job. You just gave me 40 minutes back on my calendar. I'm out of here. So that was it. My favorite performance review right there. Boom. That was great. Great. That was a seminal moment for me. I hate performance reviews. Oops, I'm in HR, I shouldn't say that. Okay. Winning recruiting. All right, here's where you may want to take some notes. The slides are going to be available to you. There's a video here that's going to be archived for you, but winning recruiting is not about creating a job posting. It's not about hiring a bunch of recruiters. It's not about hunting. This is the thing. The model recruiting hasn't really changed much. If you're doing the same thing, I got to post a job, I got to go hope people come in, then I'm going to screen them, and then I'm going to interview them. It's not going to work. It's going to be okay, but there's so much more right now. There's so many ways that you can broadcast the amazing experiences of what it's like to work for you. It's about becoming the place where people want to be. And the day-to-day experiences, how, the daily life, what kind of cars you're allowing people to drive, what kind of tools you're giving them, what kind of interactions you're having with your people on a daily basis. It's shaping their experience, how you talk to them or how you don't talk to them. I'm going to give you guys a little tip here. The number one complaint I've had from employees the entire 30 years I've worked in human resources, the number one by far, by a magnitude of 10x, my boss doesn't say hello to me. Lame. How can we miss that opportunity? They don't say hello, yeah. Which means, in other words, they don't respect me. They don't really validate who I am. People, if you're not saying hi, or you don't build a culture of that, you're missing a huge opportunity. Say hello. I wrote a whole article about that. In a transparent world, which we live in today, having a great culture, it matters. And folks, I'm not talking about putting a poster together. I'm talking about having an experience that people really know. When we hit our stride at LinkedIn and the culture was career transformation, we didn't have posters everywhere, career transformation. We didn't have to, because everyone knew if I'm here, I'm getting a great experience. Because they just were. So it's got to be real, it's got to be authentic. It can't be something that you're marketing to your people. But your employees are your number one avenue for you to get more employees. Okay? I strongly encourage you to ask yourself, how am I leveraging that experience, that daily experience, in such a way that's creating some goodness here? And serve up great experiences worth tweeting about on social media. So a couple other lessons that I want to share with you from LinkedIn. You can beat all those people that you think are crushing you in the recruiting market. Trust me, I didn't think I could, and we did. But it really takes full commitment. You got to fully go all in here. And full commitment, by the way, doesn't mean beating up on your recruiters. It doesn't mean writing some, 30-page job description. It means that you invest your time more than anything else if this is the most important thing to you. And I know the first thing you think about, because I used to think that way too, well, I got a job to do. I got daily duties here. What do you mean, recruiter? Someone else got to get me the people. No. If people are the most important variable for you to build value, that should be the most important thing you're investing your time in. And yes, I am biased, I admit it. That's been my life. But for you to think, oh no, someone else needs to do that, is wrong. The most important muscle in an organization, if you want to grow, is the muscle of recruiting. Invest in it. Get really good at it. You got to know your assets. Take an inventory. What is it? What makes you different as an employer than all the other choices people have today? And here's the problem that LinkedIn's created for all of you. People can see all the other choices that are out there today. That's what social media allows. And people want to find out information, okay? So fill the universe of social media with all the assets that you have and explaining how you're different and why someone want to work with you. It's pretty simple. It's all about culture. All right? Take advantage of that. It's such a great asset. So I want you to think about some creative marketing that you can think about relative to job posting. This is one of the earliest job postings that I could find when I did my research. Anyone read the Ernest Shackleton's Adventure? Yeah? If you haven't read that book, that's like an amazing, amazing book. You should read it. 1900, British explorer in the British Navy puts an ad out like this. And what I love about it is like he gets authenticity, right? Men wanted, hazardous journey, small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return doubtful, honor and recognition in case of success. I love that. That's so honest. This is, when we think about recruiting creativity, I want to just inspire you with some different ways of approaching it. Not encouraging you to take a chapter of Ernest's book, but if your job does involve danger, be honest about the danger. Anyone seen this billboard before? Back in early 2000s, Google was really struggling to get very, very high quality problem solving software talent. So they put a billboard out with a problem that only people who are really qualified to work in their company were going to be able to solve. And they threw it out there. And they got about 500 quality leads because what they wanted were problem solvers who understood this equation. So completely changed the game in terms of how they were going to source talent. It's a great, great story. Here's another one. Volkswagen. Now, a lot of you have heard about some of the things Volkswagen's done in recent years. In Germany, a few years ago, they had a binge that they needed to go through to hire a bunch of highly qualified mechanics. So they thought about the problem and said, what if we create a problem in about 75 vehicles and we send them to different repair shops around the country, and when they figure out what the problem is, there's going to be a employment invitation there, wanted mechanics sticker. And so once the mechanic could solve the problem, and it was a pretty complicated problem, right there was sort of like a little treasure box saying, call us, we're interested in hiring you. Completely different approach in terms of how they were going to hire mechanics, which I thought was super cool. Now, I'm not saying go put a bunch of bugs and air conditioning units out there or mess up the plumbing. That is not the message. You heard me say that, right, Jack? That is not the message. But here's a really cool, innovative approach, right? I want to say it's been an absolute pleasure sharing some of these insights with you today. I hope that there are some nuggets that I've left you with that help you realize that, you don't need a big budget, but you need commitment and you need to be authentic with who you are. And there's definitely ways that you're going to be able to find that you can succeed in the world of recruiting. So thank you guys very, very much.